Hi, Nonnie. It's exciting. I'm excited to be here. My author name is my maiden name, Kirazian, Lisa Kirazian. So my married name, though, is very similar, and it's Kirazian. So some people get confused or they think I married a cousin or something, but I didn't. It's just they're distinct names. So Kirazian is my maiden name. I was born and raised in San Diego, California, and I do live in San Diego, California for the last 20 years too. In between, though, I haven't always lived here. So I went away to college in the Bay Area of California, and then I also lived in Los Angeles for several years. And then when my husband Steve and I got married, I moved back to San Diego, where I was born and raised. So it's been fun to be back home and raise our family here these last 20, 24 years. Yes, my husband Steve and I have two kids, two daughters, and we like them most of the time and we love them all of the time. Neither of my kids will probably do that because our Armenian culture is very, the family stays together, they live together, they do all of that. And they've had to do that quite a bit growing up with their grandparents. And then when we've had illness in our family, and they're great, caregivers for their age. So I'm actually not sure which one would do which. I think they're both very caring kids. We're very grateful for that. So neither, I would say. Yes, we have pets. We have one pet. We have a a dog, an Australian Labradoodle named Zoe, who's 5, and she's adorable and she loves to love, and she's out busy doing something right now. But we used to have a bird and we used to have fish, but then it was time for a dog, and we love, love, love her all of the time. The food that I dream of at night and wake up in the morning, we probably could have a whole interview just about that. But I'd say besides coffee, which is not a food, but is important to me, there's an Armenian food, which I actually can't have all the time, but if I could, I would. And every culture has their own version of it. Armenians call it cheese boreg, which is basically like a turnover with phyllo dough stuffed with cheese and spices and flaky and hot and gooey and incredible. And if I could have that every day and didn't have allergies and things like that, I would. But that is one of my very, very favorite Armenian comfort foods. I would say black. I'm not, a gothic, moping person or anything, but I love black. I love black with anything. So black with red, black with white, black with purple or blue. I love mixing black with any of the, like winter colors. My favorite sport by far is baseball. I'm a baseball fanatic. I'm a fan of the San Diego Padres. Our kids have played different sports. One of them played softball, one did more like dance and ballet and still does. And they both did track and field. So very different from the one that I just want to, when I want to go or if I want to watch it, it's baseball. I listen to baseball radio. I'm a baseball fiend. Wanda Fisher. Yes, I know she's Wanda is a Red Sox fan and I'm a Padres fan, and they've had some executives and players go between those two teams, even we used to have the same owner at different times. So I get Wanda. I get her. Well, Wanda, we've exchanged messages in the past about the Padres and the Red Sox. And although the Red Sox have obviously won the World Series and the Padres have not, I would say at least these last few years, we are a lot more interesting to watch as a team than the Red Sox, I just have to say. And maybe one of these days we'll actually win a World Series like you. But for now, I'd say we are a pretty exciting team. My favorite TV show has changed over the years, currently just because I don't have the bandwidth to get really emotionally involved in some intense show. My favorite is Saturday Night Live. This is a phase of my life where I want to laugh. I want to enjoy great witty writing, and I want to watch it whenever I want to watch it. And I want, fun short skits. Since I have a theater background, it's really still one of my very favorite shows. And right now it's the only one I watch with any regularity. Kim Kardashian didn't do bad on Saturday Night Live. One of my favorite skits of the last few years was on the one that she did. I don't know if you saw this, where all the moms go out to like a club and they think they're going to party out all night, and then they're like falling asleep at 9 p.m. And I'm like, that's me. It was so real. I loved it so much. And she was in that one. She was pretty funny. Oh, I have many. Just being a theater and movie person over the years, there have been many that I've loved. When I was a kid, I loved, the MGM musical. So I loved Esther Williams and June Allison and Gene Kelly. And then more recently, gosh, I like them all. I mean, I'm a Meryl Streep fan, I'll admit it, and Kate Blanchett and others. So there's a group of younger actors coming up now that I think are also excellent, but I'm still kind of a traditionalist. But I love Rachel McAdams and some others that are now in their prime. I am learning how to enjoy exercise again. So when I was young, I was pretty active and I played softball, and then in my 20s, I went to the gym and did all that stuff, and then I had kids, and sort of that all went out the window. But something I've started to do more of is golf, which I love, although I'm not very good at it. And I've resumed doing that, and taking walks with their dog and going to the gym. I'm learning how to take better care of myself again after a lot of taking care of everyone else, which I still do. But so I'm learning how to like exercising again. Something that relaxes me and calms my mind. I would say listening to music is definitely one. I've played music all my life, but listening, and also, watching a classic film or a baseball game. Also, going out to a cafe and like writing in my journal with coffee. These are the things that I love to do, to relax. And I think, I'm sure there are others. Reading for me is actually a very engaging and intense process for me personally. So reading a book is actually not super relaxing for me. Some people, it relaxes them, or they go to bed, they want to read before they go to bed. To me, that gets me actually so engaged. It takes me longer to go to bed. So reading is not relaxing, although I love it. But yeah, music, film, baseball, journaling, those are things that relax me. Yeah, obviously I was raised with classical music. I played it. I love it. And it is the one that inspires me the most as a writer and person, in terms of just feeling like it lifts me above myself, beyond myself. Um, but for fun and blowing off steam, I love pop music. I love ABBA and the Beatles. And, I love other music too. I love Christian worship music also. But in terms of the one that, really takes all of me and lifts all of me, I would say it's probably classical music. Among like regular songs, pop songs, Dancing Queen by ABBA is my favorite. And I have others that I love. And any ABBA song is I love, but that's my absolute favorite. Absolutely jumping up and down and making a fool of myself as much as my body allows me to do that. I love jumping around and dancing when I'm in the mood for dancing, which is not all the time. But when our girls were little, we had this video game. We all love video games, um, called Just Dance. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's actually where you select songs to play, and then you have to actually match the moves on the screen to dance. And they're so fun, and it's great exercise, and you get to listen to your favorite songs. And so when the girls were growing up, we did that a lot. And now sometimes even when they're not here, which because they're not here as much these days, I just do it myself because I love it. Or in the car, I love to bop around in the car listening to music. That's why the gym is not my favorite unless I'm like listening to music or a podcast or something, because I can't, or that's why I think I like games so much, like golf or something, because I feel like I'm doing something than just, it's more mentally engaging too, because I feel like when my body and my mind are both engaged, I just enjoy it more. Gosh, that's a hard question. I'm not sure. I guess, uh, I mean, a lot of people have told me in my family that I'm encouraging, and that I don't know, that I don't know, encouraging or have, I don't want to say wise. That sounds really presumptuous, but just that I listen and have sometimes wise things to say, but mostly just that I'm encouraging, which I think is something that is important to me. Uh, things that really grate me and drive me nuts. When people say irregardless, drives me crazy. And uh, there are other words like that. Of course, I'm forgetting them right now, but when they say something wrong, but they really think they're right, um, that really gets me. But try not to have too many things frustrate me, Nonnie, because I want to save my energy for the things that matter more. So I'm trying to work on not being as annoyed by people. I'm messy on the outside, but I'd like to think I'm neat on the inside because I have it all in my mind pretty clearly, but doesn't always translate to my room or my stuff or my car or this dining room table that you can't see, which maybe it's better that you don't. So messy on the outside, I'd like to think neat on the inside. I think that both I and others say that I'm nice, but sometimes they say I'm too nice. That I should be a little meaner or a little more blunt or a little more honest or whatever. So I think even culturally too, it's like, let's be the nice Armenian girl and not make waves and all of that. So I'm learning how to sometimes not feel as compelled to be that way, although I like being nice. But at the same time, I'm learning that, pleasing people is a lifelong thing I'm unlearning and needing to sometimes not be so worried about that. Okay, do I prefer Facebook or Twitter? At this time in my life, I prefer Twitter. I used to be a Facebook girl, and then some things just didn't go as well for me there. I just felt like I was no longer, again, kind of having the bandwidth to share everything about my life or check out what everyone else is doing or eating or where they're going on trips. And so I sort of let that one go and I just use it once in a while. What I like about Twitter is I think just we as writers, we want to be stimulated, creatively, we want to be stimulated by ideas. And I do feel like Twitter is a place where the ideas are just more interesting, maybe not as personal of a place where you're following friends, but you're more following, I think, ideas and interests. And for me, that's about as much bandwidth as I have these days. And so these days it's Twitter. Instagram is again, it's like, this is where I went, this is what I did. I don't use it very much. And I do think that Twitter, again, I follow like writers I like, or magazines I like, or newspapers I like, or whatever. And so I just feel like it's just more of a place to be like stimulated in a different way than the Facebook, the Instagram, and all those other ones. Coke or Diet Coke is my preference for, so if we're having soda, Diet Coke or Coke Zero. If we're having iced tea, then I'm an Arnie Palmer girl with the half lemonade, half iced tea. I'd say the rapport of our RBC has been awesome, and getting to know the work and the thoughts and the ideas of our members is inspiring to me. And besides that, in terms of other social media type things, I'd say there's an actress who I liked for many years who I got in touch with once to potentially do a project. And although that project didn't work out, we, went back and forth on Twitter and messaged and shared other ideas and thoughts. And I really enjoyed that some of these actors that we see on TV are real people with real challenges. And we really enjoyed that connecting. As well as another gal who is a manager who works with writers, and a lot of nice exchanges of ideas and thoughts and sharing each other's work and that kind of thing. So those are two that I would never have met them on the street or interacted with them, I don't think, otherwise. So I appreciate that. And of course, RRBC, definitely. These are, writers who I don't think I would have crossed paths with any other way. So that's what I appreciate, that the internet can do things like that you might not be able to do otherwise. Two books recently that I have enjoyed of RRBC. I mean, I know there have been many over the years, but more recently, Harriet Hodgson's Winning, the story of grief and renewal, blew me away. I was very touched by it. I was very moved by it. And although I haven't lost a child as she has experienced, we've had a lot of illness and challenge in our family in the last few years. And so some of the things she talked about just really cut me to the heart. They were also very encouraging, that if she can get through what she has gone through, then I can get through whatever I'm going through. And so it was very inspiring. Specifically, she talked about something like anticipatory grief, and how, we're not just grieving like when someone dies, but grieving the loss of being able to do this with them, or being able to do that with them, or letting go of a dream or a hope for you or for someone or for a relationship, that we grieve those things, those losses too. And I've experienced that. And I really was touched by that book. So that one for sure. And then the other book that touched me, although it was now a couple of years ago now, I love all of the Rave soup for the writer's soul. They've all been lovely. I've been honored to participate and be part of some of them. But the one that really also was very touching to me was the Memories of Mom, the anthology about everyone talking about their mothers. And I was very touched by several of them. And even if their moms really were different from my own, just the bond was very clear. So many of them, Patty's and Pat and Mary, and yours as well. A lot of those pieces were very moving, even if they weren't exactly like my experience. And so I loved that anthology as well. And I was very excited to be part of it too, and sharing about my own mom, but I was very inspired by everyone's pieces in that. So those are two books that I was really touched by both of them. I do post reviews after I read a book most of the time. Sometimes, I mean, for rave reviews I do, but for other books that I've read, I do sometimes. So I'm not always consistent with that. what should readers base their reviews on when they're having read a book? I do think that, someone who is, I don't want to say just a reader, but who's reading for enjoyment, I think should just talk about how it made them feel, what they liked, what was different for them about it, what they took away from it that was meaningful. For those of us who are also writers as well as readers, we might have an eye towards how the writing, was different or similar or engaging, what it taught us about writing. So I think there's a lot of things that a writer and a reader would maybe comment on more than someone who is just reading for enjoyment. But I do think that, reviews are just a snapshot. They're not meant to be an essay about the book, a book report or anything, but just a snapshot of what, of your impression of the book and what it meant to you, so that others who are thinking about reading it can make their own informed decision about whether they want to read it. Well, I've been writing since I was 5 years old. My first thing I ever wrote was a little book of poetry with cut up lined paper with staples and a little book. And that was my first thing. And then I would write little stories or poems for the next several years. And then when I was a teenager, it's kind of a long story, but basically when I started getting involved in theater and acting, I also started writing plays. And then that became the kind of primary training that I experienced as a writer not in high school and then in college and then afterwards. So I started writing plays for many years and then started writing screenplays, film scripts as well. And then in the last 20 years or so since I got married, I wanted to try my hand at novel writing. And so I've only written 3 novels, but they are a trilogy in a series. And so I'll share those now. This was the first one I wrote, which is called Bravura. And it's the first of these 3 books about the life and 3 generations of a musical family. And it follows them from the 1960s in England, around the globe to the present day in the US and in England as well. And so this was originally a TV script I had written, and then I wanted to try my hand at making it a novel version of that story. So that's Bravura, which is the first one. The second one in this series, which follows the second generation of this musical family, is called Appassionato. And this is now the first book, Bravura, starts in around the 60s, ends in the 80s or 90s. And then Appassionato goes into the 90s and the 2000s, following musicians and composers in this family and their circle of friends and loves and so on. And then the third one in that series, my third book, is Cadenza, which is the finale of this series, which is the third generation of this musical family, which now we're in the United States, and we're looking at those who are vocalists, singers, not just musicians, and uncovering secrets and insights about the earlier generations of the family. So these are my 3, and I'm very proud of them. My books are available on Amazon. They're available as hard copy printed books or as Kindle ebooks. So they're pretty much exclusively on Amazon. I've seen them randomly show up in other places like Goodreads and stuff, but I didn't do that. So, but primarily on Amazon. Thank you. I do have both. I have a WordPress blog, Lisa Kirazian at wordpress.com, I think, I'm forgetting. And then my website is www.lisakirazian.com. So, and that also links to the blog and to a IMDb page that I have from some script work and film work. And they're all kind of, you can get them all from the website. Starting from the website might be easier. So www.lisakirazian.com. When you grow up doing, in terms of handling reviews or negative reviews in my life as a writer, having started as a playwright and a screenwriter, there's a ton of rejection. There's a ton of issues there where you have to have a really thick skin and take the comments honestly that people are giving you. And in terms of my books too, because it's not my first genre or format that I have more experience in, I don't expect to get all positive reviews because I still see myself as relatively new in the realm of writing novels and books, as opposed to plays and screenplays. One thing I've always felt that is an important thing for a writer to keep in mind when they get comments from people, good or bad, is if you get the same comment often enough from people, assuming you're letting people read it and give you feedback, which you should be doing, if someone is confused by what happens in chapter 3, but it's sort of an isolated comment among many people reading your work, then you're like, I'll take it with a grain of salt. But if multiple people are saying, I'm confused by what's in chapter 3, then I think it's something to think about. So I know some of the challenges I've heard in negative reviews of me is that sometimes my work is slow, very talky, or a lot of unnecessary exposition, or things like that. And so when enough people say that, I take that to heart, because it's not just a fluke single comment here or there, but multiple people are feeling the same thing. So I do feel like that's important, to be honest about and see if you can improve it. In my early days, before I knew what RRBC was, there was a theater organization that was really helpful to me called the Playwrights Project, which really helped mentor me and train me in playwriting. I'm president of their board now, and I'm very passionate about what they do to help young people find their voice through theater and through writing for theater. And that was a very seminal organization for me growing up. But after that, and since then, when I started getting more into writing books and blogs and other pieces, is absolutely Rave Reviews Book Club and RWISA. I mean, I think that again, the model that you've created is so unlike anything else. I've been part of like in-person book clubs. I'm in writers' organizations. There's a lot of competitiveness in those groups. There's a lot of people who are not necessarily well-meaning when they give you feedback, or who frankly have sometimes taken ideas and all of that. So I'm not saying every writers group or book club is like that, but it's hard to find a good one. And what's so unique about RBC, besides the fact that it's online and people around the world, is how supportive everyone is of each other. And I've really appreciated that about the environment you've created in the group and also among all the writers, that there's enough growth and success and joy and satisfaction as writers to go around, that we don't have to take that from each other. We can give to each other and also receive that from each other, and be all the better for it as writers, as people. And something that I feel like in these last, I think 9 or 10 years since I've been a member, it's just been a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of other groups that I've been in. And I know that although I haven't been able to always be as involved as I would like, I do feel like every time there's something, a conference, a show, the newsletter, or whatever it is, it's like a jolt. It's like a shot in the arm, a good one, of encouragement or of insight, or of just reminders to keep at it, reminders to keep improving. And I really appreciate that, because in the limited time that this phase of my life is giving me to be a writer, I feel like those snapshots, those nuggets of insight or encouragement are a huge help to me. And I hope that, when life and schedule are such that I can, devote even more time to it, I really look forward to that. But there's so many different ways that the club helps us and encourages each of us, and that we can encourage each other, that you've created something really encouraging, empowering, and exciting. Thank you. It's interesting because I feel, not that I don't feel this about RBC, but I have to stay on my toes, and it challenges me to keep to be my best, I guess, and not to sort of slack. And I know there are ways in which I really have come up short sometimes, but I also feel that it's a great opportunity, and it's basically a privilege that I need to keep earning, I guess, is how I see it. That it's not just a one and done. And one thing that I've been challenged by recently is to not be afraid to change the way I've been writing, and to not be afraid to take more risks as a writer. I feel like that's largely a result of what I'm seeing in RWISA authors, not afraid to take risks and try things a little differently. You also do a lot of programs, even if I don't always participate in, when I see, try this 24-hour thing, try this short story contest, try the 30 days of blogging, try these things, which, in my mind, I'm like, God, I had never had thought of doing that. I don't think I could do that. But then when I see others doing it and stepping up their game to do it, I'm thinking the next go around, these are things that I want to try too. And so that whole sort of keeping you up on your game, keeping you on your toes, and continuing to earn the privileges, I'm taking that seriously. All right, I am honored and happy to give a shout out to my mom and dad. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. And I look forward to seeing this interview. And more importantly, I want to thank you, Dad, for the ways in which you as a writer modeled what a writer and great reader and great student of writing and literature should be. You were my first teacher, my first writer, and my first model to be who I am now. And Mom, I want to thank you for always being encouraging and always reading my work and giving me your honest thoughts as well. And so I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, Mom and Dad. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah.